Hello class, this is Dr. Carl Letamendi, and this is a facilitated video lecture of the PowerPoint presentation for Chapter 4 of the Leading with Cultural Intelligence text by Mai Moua. So let's begin. Once again, as I say in all of these video lectures, all credit is due to the author of the text, which is Mai Moua, for developing this PowerPoint presentation. I'm just facilitating it and I cannot take credit for any of its content. The fourth chapter of the book is titled Thinking About Thinking. And we open the text by talking about cognition. And whenever we say cognition, we're really talking about the ability to process information. And you can already start to imagine that your culture kind of does have some sort of influence on your cognition, doesn't it? Related to culture, the complete knowledge and experience an individual gains about cultural situations and the individual's action within those actions, right? When we're talking about metacognition, this means the knowledge an individual has about his or her own cognitive process. So we've all grown up, and to us, it may appear as though the way that we understand the world around us is the way most people should, right? But in reality, when you start to learn about different cultures and how other people's upbringings are, they all tend to think that too. So we really have to be leaders who are culturally intelligent and just recognize that a lot of times we think that our way is the best way, but sometimes that's only specific to us, right? Generally, this is referred to as thinking about thinking, and is considered a critical component of successful learning as well. Within metacognition, we have three components. We have metacognitive knowledge, metacognitive experience, and metacognitive strategies. And these are some good vocabulary words for you all to take into account. And if you'd like to read a little bit about this in your text, feel free to do so. So first, we're going to tackle a little bit on metacognitive knowledge, which involves learning processes and your beliefs about how you learn and how you think others learn. The task of learning and how you process information, and the strategies you develop and when you will use them. So now we're here in this class and we're all pulling the curtain and learning that there's many different ways that other people learn. There's many different types of upbringing, and all of this shapes the way that you perceive the world. Metacognitive experience is an individual's emotional response to learning, both in terms of progress made and the connection of new information to previous knowledge. Metacognitive strategies refers to the methods an individual uses to monitor his or her progress related to learning and present activities. It's considered a mechanism for controlling your thinking activities and to ensure you are meeting your goals as well. The text also provides us with some techniques for developing strategic thinking, which is a good thing to have if you'd want to consider yourself to be a culturally competent and culturally intelligent leader. Strategic thinking in this sense refers to reasoning related to creating strategies in line with the business and competitive goals of an individual or an organization in a global environment. There's a couple of basic strategies for improving your strategic thinking, and some of them include connecting new information with what you already know, selecting your thinking strategies carefully and also intentionally, so kind of like premeditating what it is that you're going to be doing and how you're going to be reacting, planning, monitoring, and evaluating your thinking strategies and processes. Identification of knowledge gaps. So here we have a table that tells us what I want to know and what I want to learn. So for example, we have what I want to know. Between the years of 91 and 2013, the projected growth of Hispanic purchasing power is 560%. So what I want to learn from that is the differences in lifestyles among Hispanic groups, right? Because even based on the statistics, you don't really want to just slap a label on a cultural group or a racial category and just say, oh, well, this is applicable to everyone, right? You still want to dig a little deeper and try to find out what lifestyles are built within that category that you've identified superficially. Um, Another thing here, what I want to know, Hispanics are the largest minority group in the United States. What I want to learn is the reasons for immigration or coming to the United States. So, you know, Latin and Hispanic America is comprised of dozens of countries, right? About a dozen countries or so, if I'm not mistaken. So there may be some political factors that vary across each Hispanic country that leads to certain migration patterns, right? Something that we might want to learn to build on that. The next fact here, by 2020, the U.S. Hispanic population will triple. What I want to learn in order to identify and satisfy the knowledge gap is cultural etiquette in doing business with Hispanics. So you can really replace any one of these and replace Hispanic with any other cultural group or racial category or gender identity or whatever. And what you want to learn is kind of like the next step in the process to dig a little deeper and learn a little more about that. It helps you not just to be a culturally competent leader, but also a good researcher and a good marketer, also a proactive marketer. The next fact here is family is central to Hispanic communities. What I want to learn is the history of Hispanic culture in the U.S. And what I want to know is a large percentage of Hispanic families are from low income families. So then here we're not given an example of what you want to learn, but you might want to dig a little deeper and understand what are some of the socioeconomic factors that might cause hindrances amongst this population, which cause Hispanic Americans to be held back a little bit more in terms of wealth attainment, right? So these are good facts to kind of keep in mind. And again, you can replace Hispanic with any other cultural group you want. But then, as a culturally competent and culturally intelligent leader, there's some other questions that you may have that will help you fill in that knowledge gap, as the slide's trying to imply. Creating intentional strategy. So here we have another somewhat of a flow chart, right? So looking at the first one here, it says, I know that the Hispanic population is socioeconomically diverse across the United States. Then the next one we have here is, I would like to know what the differences in lifestyle are between Hispanic groups. And the strategy is, I need to research the differences among Hispanic groups that enter the United States, right? Because there are multiple countries, as I mentioned in the previous slide. Looking at this next one, by 2020, the Hispanic population will triple. The next step here is, I would like to understand the reasons for immigration and why they choose to live in the U.S. And the strategy is, I need to build relationships with people in the Hispanic community to understand their experiences in the U.S. And lastly, we have here, Hispanics are the largest minority group in the U.S. Next step here is saying, I would like to learn the cultural etiquettes for doing business with Hispanics. And the strategy is, I need to be able to speak the language and understand the cultural nuances of Hispanic culture. So, for example, I attended over this weekend a somewhat of a kind of like a film screening slash discussion at a university nearby, and one of the things that struck me is that they were interviewing some Hispanics and Latinos in Philadelphia, and a lot of them who, particularly from Central America, don't speak Spanish as their first language at all. They also have dialects and other languages that are prevalent amongst their cultures, so we would be quick to judge them as Hispanic or Latino, but they don't even identify as that. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So it kind of coincides with what we're looking at here, needing to be able to speak the language and also understand the cultural nuances of Hispanic culture. So that would be one of those nuances. Cultural strategic thinking techniques. Here we have peer learning. which is working with peers to question and explore cultural interactions to resolve cultural problems, writing your experiences and gaining cultural knowledge. And we also have thinking, being, and staying positive, as well as finding a coach or a mentor, which is also a great idea, and being an observer as well. And another cultural strategic thinking technique is employing active listening, which is the ability of an individual to understand, interpret, reflect on, and respond to what the individual just heard, as well as changing your questions. In the field of social science and communications research, in addition to active listening, we're also taught reflective listening. So that's when someone's speaking to you, and as they're speaking to you, you nod, right? It's just a small kind of like sign that you give to the other person, a communication cue to let them know that you are listening, right? Or if you're speaking on the phone with someone and you're speaking to them, if they say, uh-huh, uh-huh, oh yeah, oh really? Those are just little, I guess, fillers that the other person feeds to you to let you know that they're listening to you. So that's kind of along the lines of what active listening is, but more that's specifically reflective listening. But once again, it also fits the um, the category as well of employing active listening. But in addition to that, you also want to make sure that you are actively listening in a culturally sensitive way. There may be some cultures where doing the kind of reflective listening that we're taught is not considered respectful, or maybe it's considered extremely disrespectful to do that. Or maybe if the person's older than you, you're not supposed to look at them in the eyes, but here in the US, if you don't look at someone or give them eye contact, it may be considered disrespectful. So all of those things are kind of like the nuances of being able to just be a culturally competent and culturally intelligent leader. So these are just kind of the things that, on the surface we're looking at them, but there's a whole new world to explore when it comes to being culturally strategic and culturally sensitive. So this concludes our video for chapter 4 of the Leading with Cultural Intelligence text. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can always feel free to email me or shoot me a text. Again, I'm Dr. Carl Etamendi, and thank you for watching this video. Bye-bye.